did you meet Aisha?
I called her. I got her. I'm doing some indirect political work.
Oh,
So I'm helping some people doing some things. So I'm helping this guy they call Big Man.
okay.
And I helped him develop a website.
Oh, okay.
And then he told me about
What she's doing.
what she's doing. And he described it. And I said, okay, I probably could help her out. So I gave her a call, you know.
How did y'all get on me?
No, because she took me to this place in the rainforest,
Oh, okay.
you know.
Not the Domino Club. No.
Yeah, it was the Domino Club, you know. And I said, I know, I said, my wife's cousin lives in the rainforest. Perhaps you might know her. I said, Celeste. And she's, what? You know?
Yeah, she just
She said, we
Yeah.
you know, hang out up here.
Yeah.
You know,
That's where we
that's
hang
my
out, at the
cousin.
Domino
Blah,
Club.
blah, 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 blah.
And we just recently found out
Yeah.
we were family, and I kind of went back and traced, you know, because
Yeah.
I know the name Hodge, like you said, do I know? When I hear the name, I thought that sometimes.
Yeah, I
make
saw
the
that on the
connection.
Macintosh Family Tree too.
Yeah. With the Hodge? Really? Oh, God.
Yeah.
So,
There you go. See what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I'm helping her out with her
Right,
group.
Because the
Yeah.
Macintoshes come out of Tortola. Well, some of them. They come out of what you were saying the other day, Guyana or Grenada?
not Grenada. Yeah.
Grenada.
Island off the coast of Grenada.
Grenada, right. And I can probably get you into why that happened. But anyway. But tons of them in the BVI. Tons.
Yeah, because I in the family tree that I saw, they only go as far as my great grandfather because that's where our lineage here started.
Okay.
So, but I would like to go further than that to see like who are his siblings, where did they go, if he had any siblings, where did they go, and who were his parents and where did they come from, because I know Macintosh is an Irish name.
Yes.
So then definitely that's the white side, and then I would like to know who the black side was, you know, as well.
Well, when I talk about how we get into these things, the Irish is who I'm going to kind of talk about for a second.
Okay.
And
You know, that's Gita's, her major
Yeah,
professor
I think, yeah.
is
Who's
an
that?
Irish lady who is teaching at the University of Aarhus in Denmark, and that is her big thing, studying the Irish diaspora through the Caribbean, through transportation, through all those mechanisms at the time throughout the Caribbean during the potato famine era. So people had a bail on Ireland. So, you know,
and
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard
one other real quick tie-in that y'all thinking I don't have any. There's no possible way I could make a contribution to this. family.
absolutely, absolutely, we do believe. I believe very much that you can,
I'm going to ask you, Crystal,
Celeste.
I mean Celeste, if you're related to Crystal Foy,
Probably.
who from the BVI's, and she's my daughter's best friend in high school.
Oh, okay.
So that's
More than likely, I am. The boys
mom is
are.
Concy. She used to be head of school at Atlanta Christian, and now she's at Gunplace.
Oh, okay. Listen, there's very few, especially BVI and U.S. Virgin Island linkages that don't have these total connections, even though there's thousands of them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But the Irish and the Scottish were channel slaves as well, brought
okay.
into these Caribbean
That's true.
islands.
That's true.
Okay.
Oh.
And
I thought they were indentured servants.
no, they were channel slaves first.
Yeah.
And then
But I know
became
They was able to work out of
basically-
it.
I know they were basically
No, they
the
worked
lower.
out of it after this.
I
They
know-
were channel slaves.
I know they were basically the lower class of the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the Welsh?
The Welsh was part of that, but not on the same thing. The Irish and the Scottish was the first that they kind of put out. They call it what's it, Celtic? Some sort
Celtic?
of
Celtic, yeah.
Yeah, they had a whole Celtic connection to some of this, and I'm trying to get into some of that now because a lot of African Caribbean people are finding that in their DNA. I know cousins is like going, what's Celtic? And I'm going, what's your name? Celtic, right name, right? Okay. I'm like, and when we start to look it up, it's taking us right back into there. But, and it was basically who left here and some of the Irish, yeah, when they started realizing how many African, how close the Irish and the Scottish basically were, and the Africans were connecting, especially during that early time period, because of the enslavement of the both. Then that's when you get into your politics. They start separating.
Isn't that basically the reason why you had things like the Bacon's Rebellion?
Yes, and the Boston Tea Party and all of that stuff was based on some of that same issue. Those are issues. So that's where you go into your politics. That's politics.
Alright.
Divide and conquer thing.
Save
Yeah.
it for the camera.
So we're rolling.
Oh, okay.
Are we
Whenever
rolling?
you guys are ready.
Okay.
Okay, so introduce yourself, sir.
Well, I'm a Crucian.
I like that. I like that. That's a nice way to start.
Yeah, well, I believe it. I feel it. I knew growing up in the Bronx that my father was born on St. Croix. I didn't know how rich my roots and ancestry was on the island until I relocated here in 2009. But as a youngster growing up, I always had an interest in St. Croix and visiting St. Croix. And I had vowed that at some point in my life I would do that and begin some research. And I didn't realize that it would take me until I was a senior citizen to be able to relocate and begin the journey of researching my family ancestry, you know. And it has been a journey. It has been a very rich and fulfilling and revelatory journey because my grandparents and my father moved from St. Croix in 1925. They were a part of the Great Migration.
And what was your grandfather's name?
Theophilus. Theophilus James. And he had 4 siblings, 2 girls who were older, Arabella and Anne, and 2 brothers, Patrick and Charles. And he was the youngest, born in 1900, obviously during the Danish dispensation. And so he was a part of the Great Migration. And when I relocated here and began research.
Can you remind us what's the Great Migration?
Well, the Great Migration is a period between between the transfer and the 1920s and 30s. And a number of thousands of Crucian or Virgin Islands migrated from the territory to the States during that period. And for many reasons, obviously the economy was one of them. And my grandparents and father were among them, you know. And so when I moved and began to, when I relocated and began doing some research at the Wim Great House, I mean, my mind was totally blown because of what I learned about my own family tree and the hundreds of cousins that I know that I have now, you know, and the rich history of the territory and the Caribbean and the role that the Caribbean played within the African diaspora, you know. So, but just to put it in a capsule, what I learned was that my great-great-grandfather was born into slavery in 1825, and he worked as a cooper on Estate Hermitage. What I found additionally interesting was the fact that his parents, Adam and Helena James, also lived on the plantation as well. And so I'm doing some research in terms of when they got there and how. they got there. So my research continues. But apart from the family roots, the family tree, what I learned in terms of the local history was a mind blower. I had no idea, no knowledge of Transfer Day, you know, and that's the title of the book that I wrote, because I was so overwhelmed by the information, by the flood of information that I was receiving from the research. And I didn't really know what to do with the information. It took hold of me. I was possessed by the information, because when I moved down, I had a couple of book projects on my desk. I'm an author. I had a couple of book projects on my desk, but the flood of information and revelation caused me to put those two projects aside and just begin to deal with what I was uncovering exclusively, hence Transfer Day. But I heard of Emancipation Day. I had never heard of that either, you know, and that was particularly interesting to me, because Emancipation Day in 1848 is when the local population received its freedom, got its freedom. And what was interesting about that, it was a direct action on their part that resulted in their being granted freedom by the Danish governor at the time, you know. And so apart from, and as an educated person from the States, I followed slavery, the period of enslavement, emancipation, and Reconstruction, then Jim Crow, you know, and the modern civil rights movement. And none of that stuff, which is rich in and of itself, but none of that stuff deals with what I was uncovering. And I'm saying, wow, this is deep. I was absolutely overwhelmed by that. And interestingly enough, it really is a part of American history that has been omitted, you know. But needless to say, there were other issues like Contract Day. I had never heard of Contract Day, and that's what 1878, when
1st.
yeah, October 1st, which is
The modern day the modern day end and beginning of the fiscal year.
absolutely, absolutely. And so, and that event they call Fireburn was more or less a confirmation of their freedom, because they were free, but they couldn't make any bread. You know, the money was funny. And so it was a labor action, in fact. And so that kind of information, and people like D. Hamilton Jackson, the first labor union in St. Croix, in fact, the Caribbean in 1915, and so many other individuals